The difference with anger and bitterness is bitterness wants to respond to a failure of something. And it is demanding for accountability. Why didn't you do this? And bitterness also always seeks a form of revenge so that you can be able to cool and soothe it. And that's why probably so some of the people walisalamia wabunge. Yeah, because they were walituma namba wakasalamia watu. And you could see the language they were using, it's the bitterness. We have elected you, we have given you our powers to listen to us, to think with us, to act with us, but you failed us. And so we are bitter. And you see, bitterness will always comes with an action to express together with anger. Bitterness is expressed together with anger.
Hello and welcome back to the 360 Perspective podcast with me, Trisha. I know it's been a minute. So first of all, let me begin by saying a huge thank you to all those who showed up for the live experience. I owe you guys. I know a lot has been happening here in Kenya, and so that's why we've withheld from posting and sharing videos. And today's conversation is actually just about what has been happening just in Kenya with the demonstrations, with the sadly lives have been lost, businesses have been lost. There's a lot that has been happening here in Kenya, and we've been champions, of rejecting the finance bill. But beyond that, the question has been, how do we care for ourselves, for our mental health, for physically, spiritually? How do we care for ourselves with the recent events that have been happening here in Kenya? And that is our conversation for today, just how to care for our mental health after the demonstrations, with everything that has happened. We can't unsee some of the images that have been circulating on the media. So how do we genuinely care for ourselves in this season? That is our topic for today. And to discuss this topic is a friend. He is or rather, let him introduce himself and his qualifications. But ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my good friend Nelson. Karibu sana, Nelson.
Thank you for having me. For me, it is a privilege to be here. From watching from the audience and being here. Who would have thought? My name is Nelson Aseri. I'm a psychologist, a top psychologist, I believe. Also a pastor. And I love anything and everything to do with mental health, counseling, emotional healing and wellness and wholeness of every individual in our society. I think for me, what guides me is Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring healing to the brokenhearted.
Amen.
That is my tagline.
Good stuff. And the reason why we are here is to discuss the events that have been happening, not particularly the events, but how do we care for ourselves after the events that have been happening in Kenya? You've been on the streets.
I have been on the streets.
The past, it's 2 weeks now, of demonstrations. Last week on Tuesday, Thursday, the current week on Tuesday and on Thursday, and just beyond that, also on social media. So it's been quite a heavy week, whether yay to the keyboard warriors, whether you've been a keyboard warrior, whether you came out on the streets. But I think there's that reality of there's been so much that has been happening in Kenya. There are things that unfortunately, just because of free media right now, we can't unsee certain things that we've seen. We've seen images of bodies, people who lost their lives during the demonstrations, kids. I mean, it's just been levels and levels of trauma. So I want us to talk through just the realities of the trauma, because I think at the end of the day, it's good for every individual to take charge of their health, take charge of their mental health, and more so just be aware of some of the realities that they may go through mentally after all that has been happening in these 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think just reflecting the last 2 weeks, not just 2 weeks, I think from the beginning of the year, I feel like our country has been nationally mentally depressed.
That's true. Because we just came out from the floods just the other day.
Yeah, just
and
the
then
other
now here
day.
we are losing lives again because of police brutality.
Because of this. And just reflecting, I think we have been in national mental depression, and it wasn't handled properly to be able to help people navigate that. And when that is not handled properly, it leads to emotional revolution. And emotional revolution will go hand in hand with mental revolution. And that's why you'll find people on the streets expressing not only their mental thoughts, but also expressing their emotional circumstances that they are going through. And I think...
So when you say like mental revolution and emotional revolution, my assumption is, with the mental revolution is what we've been seeing, whereby people are now speaking out their thoughts. So it's not just conserved in your mind, but people are coming out and saying, we are tired. We mentally, we are not with you, but also emotionally. I think the anger that we've been seeing, the frustration that we've been seeing, just the verbalization of, these strong emotions, whether on the media, social media, or whether in person, for the team that was out in the streets.
Yeah, and you see, the thing is communication of all this happens. I term communication on three things: thoughts, feelings, and actions. And what Kenyans have not been communicating in the past has been probably what they are feeling about, or they have been feeling it, they have been thinking about it, but the action was missing to make the communication complete. And what we saw this week was the completedness of the whole process of communication. And now the thought, the feeling, and the action was communicated all together. And that's how we are in this particular space, which for me, probably I would say it is a plus, because people have unpacked their national depression. And people
shout out to Gen Zs, all the baddies out there.
Yeah. So I think it is a good thing, because the first process is people have unpacked what was baggage, or what was, I wouldn't term it as baggage, what was a genuine concern. People have unpacked it. But I think also there are levels of unpacking that we have been able to see on the streets, which are healthy, that I think our Gen Zs understood. But also there are aspects of it that were unhealthy as well, from even the police force that was also handling and was supposed to maintain law and order, which unfortunately they failed.
Yeah, and I think that was, gosh, whew. Yeah, I think for me, just the reality of, unfortunately, their images and their videos that we've seen, and even just the thought of it is already triggering, and I believe that, there's a lot of people out there, who any minute they think about the images or the videos they've seen, there's a certain emotion that is triggered, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether you just feel like, is this life even worth living, And I think for me, I've been asking myself, when we are going through these cycles of emotions, in the turmoil of the different emotions from all the events that have been happening, how do we begin caring for ourselves? And first of all, how do you even identify? Because I feel like whatever has happened in these past 2 weeks, I think, unfortunately, some of the reactions and responses, just individually and both collectively, I feel like some of it we'll experience in the next couple of weeks. It's not one of those things, okay, the finance bill has been rejected, and so, yay, moving back to normal. I think it might take a bit of time to go back to normal, but perhaps you can expand on that.
I think it is, you've mentioned really powerful emotions, and I think it's good we unpack them. We have anger, bitterness, betrayal, and even revenge. And I think when we begin to study the emotion of anger, it's because there is a sensitivity that people have when the government or the people they have vested the power to serve them don't serve them. And when you are not listened to, when you are not felt, there is a feeling that comes in you and overwhelms you. And that is one of the feelings, is anger. And so you have deep rage within you that you want to express it and tell someone, you are actually not listening. You are actually not feeling us. You are actually not acting the way you should be acting. And so that is one of the emotions, and people want to express it. And it is caused by lack and failure of being listened to, failure of being not felt, and not acting in the way you are supposed to act. And then when you look at the emotion of bitterness, it is calling for a space of, there is an action you have done, and and this action that you have done has not pleased me, and this action that you have done, like the MPs that voted for yes, people are bitter with them. You see, the difference with anger and bitterness is bitterness wants to respond to a failure of something, and it is demanding for accountability. Why didn't you do this? And bitterness also always seeks a form of revenge so that you can be able to cool and soothe it. And that's why probably, so some of the people walisalamia wabunge because they were walituma namba wakasalamia watu, and you could see the language they were using, it's the bitterness. We have elected you, we have given you our powers to listen to us, to think with us, to act with us, but you failed us. And so we are bitter, and you see, bitterness will always comes with an action to express together with anger. Bitterness is expressed together with anger. And then there is the other emotion of betrayal. People feel very greatly betrayed. I do feel betrayed because I woke up early in the morning and voted in this government. And I feel greatly betrayed because my expectations have been thwarted. And that is the feeling of other people, whether they voted or did not vote. Because one of the betrayal I feel is the people that are supposed to think with the people think with a person. And that for me is great betrayal. Leave alone that there are families that have lost loved ones who went to protest and speak out for their voices. And that was met with bullets. That was met with bloodshed. There are people that never made it home. I have a friend of mine, Credo. He never made it home. And it is betrayal, because how will the mother of Credo look at the government again that she voted for? It has been betrayed. And the thing is, with such kind, people are trying to express all these emotions, and they are greatly there. And I don't know how long it will take for national healing, how long it will take for spiritual healing and inner healing for people, because it's not just the government. There are people that feel also the church let them down, betrayed them.
Which was going to be my next question, because that one you have to also unpack like the expectation of the church, because I feel like there are a lot of people who had expectations of what the place of the church standing up and speaking out. But unfortunately, that leaders and pastors now coming out and speaking out, but I think there was that expectation that the church would stand up from the word go, from the beginning, not coming in later on to put out statements. And I personally, for me, I'm a firm believer, and I also believe we are the church. But what are your thoughts about the whole frustration that people have felt concerning the church? And Mark, these are churchgoers, these are also believers, so even when you say the church, the people who protested are also part of the church, but I think there was that expectation of particularly the leaders, because when you say the church, we have to differentiate. We are the church, but then I think there was that expectation of leaders that was not initially met.
I think I share the same frustration and disappointment with people, but again, I'll also share joy and happiness with the churches that stood firm and even prayed for their young people to go out and demonstrate, and the pastors that joined them to go out and demonstrate. But the church as an institution, as an organization of probably the umbrella of churches and how they are constituted really failed Kenyans, because Kenyans were waiting for them to speak out in solidarity and to call out these people that they see them each and every time. Because when you see the church going and probably meeting the president after he has withdrawn and all these things, you are like, where were you when we were all calling all these things out? Not that you never saw it, but you were there. And that is a very big betrayal again, because people feel betrayed. And you see, betrayal changes perception of how you see an institution or individual. And it takes probably 4 to 5 years to change the perception once betrayal has occurred. And that's why you find it is very difficult, even in marriages. When betrayal happens, it probably will take 4 to 5 years of constant reformation and restoration and change, so that the brain can be able to trust again. And you see, the church let people down. That is the whole truth. And it is not about, the thing is, the institution and the organization of the church and the leaders ought to know an apology won't make it up for betrayal. Saying sorry doesn't heal betrayal. It is changing the narrative and the consistency of seeing that change over a period of time that wins back the mind to the person that was betrayed. And I think I see a shift probably. This probably would come with the people that probably can change the narrative is not the people that we saw in State House. It's the young pastors and the young religious leaders and the leaders that joined the protest that will probably have the voice to heal the generation that was hurting and that is still hurting out there. So I think with that also, it has affected the role and the value of discipleship in young people, but even more, the emotional well-being of how this generation will see God and they will view the institution of church and how their fellowship will be impacted. Because you see, fellowship helps take people through different and difficult circumstances in life. And so when that institution is not firm and strong, then what is the mental status of people? What is the emotional wellness of people? It means the community has been withdrawn, support has been withdrawn. So people will suffer, depression will increase, levels of suicide will grow. And the unfortunate thing is, these are believers.
Yeah, because I think my next question was, okay, so these, the events have already happened. Unfortunately, people have been disappointed by the church and the spaces and places where they expected the institution and the bodies of churches to come together to speak and be one voice together with the young people, but that didn't happen. So then what would be the restoration process look like as for church workers or, for pastors, now that, people are going to churches, they're really angry, but then, sometimes they just show up because they're like, okay, I'm doing this because God requires of me to do it, but it doesn't negate the fact that I'm mad at my leaders, So then what would the restoration process and journey look like for church workers?
The restoration journey for church workers is a complicated one, because it is not the church workers to occasion the restoration, but the leaders to occasion the restoration. And how it will be done, it will be so difficult with what I'm thinking. Number one is coming out and apologizing. That is the first thing. And saying, I have failed. And that is one of the things that people don't want to admit. I have failed, and not giving explanations. I have failed to speak out completely for the injustices of ABCD. Not why did I not speak? And I think the first space is always apologizing and being empathetic with the people and sympathetic with the people. The second thing is beginning the journey of first restoring personal trust with people before restoring organizational trust and institutional trust with people. And personal trust, that means people want to see you engaged and involved in what they are doing. Not one time, but consistently. Because what will happen is when people see you on the front line of probably helping solve injustices that are there, helping champion for justice, then their trust begins to get back slowly by slowly. And this will take a period of 4 to probably 5 years to commit. And the other thing is people have called out for immediate dissociation from church and politics. And now it is going to be a very difficult space, especially with the, let me say, quote unquote narrative of the 7 mountains and taking over the mountain of governance. I would say with that demand, it's going to be very difficult to help the church that wants to shift matters in government and all that. But then how does it happen while ensuring that the demand of this generation and the call of this generation to dissociate from politics and not to have political leaders addressing people in religious rallies at the pulpit and all that, how is that going to happen? And you see, the other thing is the pastors, the religious leaders, watasalamiwa pia very soon. That is what I am seeing happening. And if they don't do the necessary of probably coming out and also putting measures and saying, call us out if we have done A, B, C, D. And also it will mean accountability, which means these apologies, not just an apology. It is an apology. You are coming out clean. I have associated with this particular government. This is what the benefit we got. And this is where we are, and you are coming out clean. You get. And you see, it is not an easy thing if probably you received 20 million from a government and say, as a church, we received this. We didn't question then and all that. But this is our stand concerning this, and we don't know how we are going to do. Will we return the 20 million? I don't know. You see? So I think apology, change internally, and change even in the whole institution and organization. And also that personal change is very key. And then the last thing I would say is sticking by the principles of the word of God and not going to the extremes of it, remaining being balanced. There is no problem with staying on the balance scale rather than going to the end of the extreme of what we have probably seen. And so I think the key thing would be for people to remain balanced in the word of God, balanced in obeying, because I think one of the greatest commands that Jesus gave was, do not do what you don't say. Blessed are those that do not just listen, but blessed are they that do what they have heard. And I think that will be a very big thing, being a leader that walks the talk. And walking the talk, not from external things, but from the very scripture that is there. So I think for me, that is one of the ways that it would happen. But also our generation, we need to restore ourselves because the bitterness, the anger, the frustration is genuine. But looking at it, how does it help us form a community of wholeness and health amongst each other? So we also have to restore ourselves and go back to God and say, truly our leaders failed. Truly we feel betrayed. And God, we are ready to forgive them and to walk the next journey ahead together. So the question is, are people ready to show forgiveness? Are people ready to forgive the injustice of the church? While at the end of it, you still have a knife at the back of your heart, of your head, or probably in your heart, you still are hurting. Can you still show forgiveness? I think that is one of the biggest things. And forgiveness takes time as well. And forgiveness happens by the grace of God. But also forgiveness is a decision that you have to make at the end of the day, so that you can have a good, healthy life. It's not for the sake of the person on the other end. Forgiveness is for your own personal health and growth, because the mandate God has given people that he has chosen to lead over us is to care for us. And so if you block that door by bitterness and unforgiveness, then you have closed the channel of the water pipe from the water flowing and reaching out to you. So I think that will be very key.
Wow, and I love that because when I was thinking about it, I realized just how complex it is, because you find some of these churches, they don't have Gen Zs, so really it's like our parents and the older generation. So for them, I mean, there's no bitterness there, so leaders don't really feel, what are they coming out to apologize to, So I almost feel like, in a way, it's almost relevant to, the leaders who serve the younger people, in a way, and that's why I was asking about church workers, because I think there's also that reality that, I mean, if you'll be going to church with a lot of bitterness and a lot of anger, which literally you're cutting off your source of what, like the river of life from flowing in a
Yeah.
way, because those are the people that God has put charge over us. Those are the people who speak life over us.
Yeah.
So if you are still withholding anger and bitterness within you, then it becomes a challenge to even listen to the man of God or woman of God and
Yeah.
listen to the truth of the gospel when there's so much anger and bitterness within you. But I think it's also a call and a charge for us as believers to also look inwardly. I remember yesterday we were having a Bible study and the conversation was, yes, we are looking at our leaders and we are angry and betrayed, but really when we look inwardly, are we any better? Are we good stewards of what God has put in our hands? Are we genuine? If our lives were to be projected on a projector, would we say we are better off than them? So I think generally at the end of the day, yes, there's a frustration and it's justified, but I think even as we navigate and process all these things, I think there's a place of also pausing and reflecting and asking God, can you make me a better person? Because at the end of the day, we are going to be the leaders, who will take over some of these seats, hopefully in the next election. I challenge some of you who are watching, if you have a call of God in the place of leadership of governance or politics, start considering, taking over some of the seats in the next election. Start preparing, start planning yourself, start reading, start researching on how you can join some of the political parties and prepare yourself for the next upcoming election. Because our prayer as believers is that, God will raise godly leaders in those spaces, and that even as they take over those spaces, that God will preserve their heart, that their hearts won't change. Because what we've seen is we'll have someone godly take over the seat, but then power and money and all these things end up corrupting them. And they forget that they were positioned there by God to be servant leaders and to be able to transform and change our nation. So I think there's also that call of us as believers, just challenging ourselves to take up some of these leadership positions in the government and praying that even as we take those positions, that God will continue to transform us so that we understand that our responsibility is for the people and for servanthood leadership, and not leadership that demands and takes and consumes instead of giving.
I think that's very correct, because as workers in different spaces and even in our generation, it calls for that individual accountability as well, because the past few weeks I have been looking inwardly myself as well, because I asked myself, what are some of the unhealthy things that would manifest when I have probably a big responsibility of leadership on a bigger platform? Would I be able to manage my weaknesses or probably my shortcomings in that particular space? And so I think also, as part of individual accountability, I think every person has to look inwardly, because we are talking about mismanagement. I was looking at my life and how I manage my finances, and I realized, oh, Jesus.
Because sometimes, if you're put in those positions, funny enough, we'll just end up being the same people that we are complaining about right now.
Because I had to audit how is my financial life? Do I follow the plan? And I realized 40% I don't follow the plan, but 60% I do. But over time, you might underrate the 40%, and it might eat up the whole 60%. And I also called myself into accountability, and I told myself I have to make tough decisions. And also there are things like, let's say, promising without watching your word. Do you speak before you consider the magnitude of your speech? Because again, I ask myself, how many people have promised things and they never delivered? And it doesn't bother them. And they will keep on and keep on going and promising. And they don't mind if their image is thwarted or threatened or something like that. So the other thing, I'm also looking at myself as another way, because you're talking about how do we care for our mental health. It's by also sealing the loopholes in our character. Because you have to watch out the things that will probably be a trigger for your mental unwellness. And knowing your personal weaknesses is very key, and working around them. Research says that about 60% of people don't pursue their personal growth and development. And if we were to look at 60% of people, that represents almost, let's say, 30 million people in the country. And so 30 million people in the country, if they were to be given the mandate of leadership, they would fail. And not because the leadership or systems are not working, but because the system internally in a person is not working. It's not functional. And I think one of the things we have to look out for as individuals out here, even as our generation, Gen Zs, is one, identify and recognize your character flaws. Is it emotional? Is it how you respond to issues? Is it structural? Is it your discipline that you have forsaken? Is it accountability? There are people who do not like accountability at all.
Yep.
And you have to be very keen to seek feedback. Do you seek feedback? You know, for myself, and it was someone younger than me that gave me feedback. Do you know how that represented disrespect? How dare you tell me this about myself? But I was humble. I took it up and I made it a call. I used to make Google Forms every quarter from 2019, and I send it to friends and I tell them, I know you will tell me good things about me. I don't want to hear that. I want you to tell me what is negative about me. And I have done that consistently since 2019. And I have seen the other side of my life. You know, there are 4 areas there is something called the Johari window. There is what you know about yourself. There is what you don't know about yourself that I know. There is what you know about yourself I don't know. And there is what you don't know about yourself and that I don't know. So what you know about yourself is easier. We can tell you your name is Trisha, you went to this school, and this, that we know and I know. There is that which I know about you that you don't know. That is a blind area that you now need to seek for feedback, for people to tell you, by the way, we do not like how you treat certain people when you are giving feedback or when you are working out with them. We do not like this about you, because the first time I was told something, I did not recognize it myself. I thought I used to follow up through, but I never used to follow up through. And it was a simple thing as, I will call you. I end up not calling. But for me, I didn't look at it. My intention was to call, but I just never followed up to make that call. And it became a character flaw, which affected people's relationship with me. And people felt I cannot be trusted. And you see, if I realize I am losing friends at a supersonic speed, you can come and look at yourself and ask yourself, what is the problem? But because you don't see your blindness, and you've not created that bridge for people to bring feedback, then you can be depressed. And we have to create that channel of feedback, even for us as people, to get personal feedback. The way we are giving the government feedback, our leadership feedback, we have to create it for people to express not only their thought, but how they feel about you and how they would act for you. Because that is very key. I think the other thing as people that we need to look out for is we have neglected, a lot of people have neglected taking care of themselves. Not just during this season, but even before. Before these people neglect themselves. And if we have to change the narrative, then we have to take the beautiful hard steps, which I don't consider them beautiful. And for me, taking care of yourself or your mental health entails 3 things: spirit, body, and soul. Spirit, I believe every person is connected to a higher being, or
so for believers, it's God.
It's God. Yes. For Muslims, it's Allah. And it is good for you to be able to pursue that space of growing your spirituality and growing your relationship and your intimacy with God. And if you neglect that part, then that is the source of the greatest hope. There is only what God can do and no man can do for you. And so if you neglect that part, and when I look at that, for believers, it will be probably your prayer life, your word life, and fellowship with other people. There are people who believe in the word and prayer but neglect fellowship. And fellowship has 3 aspects. It is availability. You have to be available to fellowship with people. It is reliability. How reliable are you and it is also vulnerability. Can you be able to open up and share that? Because you see, when you open up and share, people come and cover you in prayer and respond to particular specific needs that are there. And then also we have your soul. And your soul entails your memories, your feelings, your emotions, and your intellect. And you have to watch out, what are you learning and consistently putting out there for you to experience and feel. And like for this particular time right now, we know we have information dumping.
Oof. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and I think
you
some
go
people
to
just
Gram,
need to take a social media break because it's a lot.
You go to Gram, it's informational dumping. You go to WhatsApp, you go to
Twitter,
X,
yes,
you go to Facebook,
TikTok,
you go to TikTok, everywhere. And one of the things is that adopting a culture. There are people that I have learned from how they do their things. One of them is Larry Madowo. And one of the things that he does is in every year he takes a break. Probably it is usually a whole quarter in a year. He takes, in every quarter he probably has to take 1 month break, another month break, another month break, to just absorb himself in
and decompress.
And I think it's one of the things that I've also adopted for me. And it is good for every person to adopt. I know it's difficult, but it's a discipline you have to keep for your mental wellness, to be able to feel yourself, because it's so easy for the information that you have that is not unpacked and analyzed critically to influence the direction of your life without you knowing. Like for instance, it's so easy for information like a finance bill to consume you. And the moment you hear finance bill, the response is reject. Because you've not taken time to do what? To just withdraw and be able to analyze and unpack and decompress and understand. So I think it's also better for people to take a social media break. And when you take this social media break, you're not taking it so that you have a holiday. You are taking it so that you can create more time to work on yourself. Because I was looking at my screen time the past 1 week, it was almost 36 hours. That is a whole day that I spent. And so if I have to take a break of probably a month, I am recovering the other days that I spent on social media to work on and concentrate on certain areas and aspects of my life. And also we have emotional analyzing your emotions. Where are you? Being able to pin down, I am bitter. Can you be able to journal? What are you bitter about? And you see, it is so easy to say journal. And I know many people don't journal. Many men I know don't journal. I do journal. I have 7 journals since 2017. And I can tell you, the men that I have championed and encouraged and people have encouraged to journal come back and say, I wish I began early. Because they are able to see the effect and the importance of it. And so just pinning down and saying, I am bitter because of A, B, C, D. It helps you unpack that bitterness. I am sad because I have lost A, B, C, D. And it helps you unpack the sadness. I am this. And you can do it in different ways. But now it is good for you to do it in your personal space. We are not asking you to go online and post it in a public space. It is your personal space. You are taking these things in a personal way, not for people to analyze and to see where you are. No, it is for your personal well-being. And so adopting the culture of journaling will help you unpack. And then the other thing is also mentally is seeking professional help. I have been part of a team, Kenyan therapists, during this whole season. And we've been offering psychological and psychosocial support for different individuals, including the police, and including also government officials and members of parliament, because they are also depressed. Because one of them was threatened, their family was threatened, and you can't live in that particular environment. You care for your mental well-being. So getting professional help is very, very important. And right now we have, I think after this we can attach some of the contacts people can be able to contact for it. It is for free for this particular season. Professionals have come out to assist individuals for free. And we know what that means, because a mere session is almost probably 4K, 5K there.
Yeah.
And so when people come out, it is in the spirit of nationalism. It is in the spirit of we are in this together as a generation, and we have to cross over when we are complete and whole. And so I think that is one other thing that people also have to be able to accept, to seek out for help. The thing is, the people who know where help is do not tell other people who don't know where to get help. That is where the disconnect is. And I would encourage probably our audience to pass the message down. Because you find, if I know a therapist, I'm contented. I am not interested in getting to know a friend who doesn't know a therapist
who may need help.
So I think that is also key for us to be able to use every connection and network to get people help, not only just in this season, but in
Post-season.
in our post season.
And definitely also just, I think, sharing this video as well, you know. So as you watch this video and you feel like it's helped you as an individual navigate this season, not keeping it to yourself, but just being able to share with your friends and all those people around you, so that collectively we are healing as a nation, collectively we are healing as a generation, and not just singularly, individually, you know, but also remembering being your brother's or your sister's keeper in the process and in the journey.
And now coming to the place of the body, I'll use this acronym DEAR. How do you care for yourself, your body? Because I said there are three aspects: spirit, soul, and body. And for body, I'll use this acronym DEAR. The first one is drink. We're not asking you to drink alcohol. We're asking you to drink water. Because hydrate. What happens is, when the brain is soaked in a liquid, and when you have not hydrated yourself, the brain sinks and touches the skull. And that causes a lot of distress and a lot of irritability in people. And so you have to hydrate to allow the brain chemicals to be balanced.
Interesting. So if I see somebody who's irritable, you just need to give them a
water.
cup of water.
Give them water.
You know, maybe in a few minutes.
Give them water. They'll be able to calm down.
That's interesting.
So that is one of the things. So we are not drinking so that we receive water in our body, but it is majorly for the space of the brain.
Interesting. Never knew that.
Then the other one is drink water, guys. Don't drink alcohol. Don't soak yourself in wine.
So it's specifically water, not juice, not
water,
not any other
water.
Liquid, but particularly just water.
There is a reason why
hydration, electrolytes, and all those things. Okay.
I always use this. There is a reason why the Israelites demanded for water in the wilderness and not alcohol.
Interesting.
The other thing is eat. Eat. Eat well. Don't concentrate on one meal. There are people who in this particular time may not even want to eat. And what does that do to the body? It denies your body effective nutrients for the complete functioning of your vital body organs. So it's important for you to eat healthy and balanced and eat balanced diet. And also watch your appetite and your eating as well. Create a simple timetable. I know this is a joke. How do we have reduced creating a timetable for the rich, and we don't ourselves create a timetable. And creating a timetable simply is, in the morning I can have water. If you have tea, well and good. In the afternoon I can have my meal or 3 fruits. In the evening I can have this meal and that. So it's just a culture that you help yourself watch what you eat, because that contributes a lot to your functioning as a person. And the other one is exercise. Exercise it helps reduce muscle tensions and helps electrolytes in the body be transferred into your muscles. When you exercise, where there is stress, the electrolytes release that stress into your muscles. And so when you exercise, your muscles are able to decompress and help you calm down. And so it is very important. You can breathe in, breathe out. Simple things. You can take walks. You can hit the gym. And even for me personally, I've signed up for my gym again because I feel I need to do more. I've been running, but I felt I need to do more. And it's important for you to exercise. Exercise is not guys playing PlayStation. Exercise is not sitting in the home playing Kenya at 50. Exercise is for your body. It's for your health. And then rest. Rest helps you relax your muscles, relax your body organs, and relaxing them. And rest, guys, means switching off everything and just being in a mood to feel yourself, feel your thoughts, feel your feelings, feel your actions as well, and being just in that space. And that can happen as well. Sleep can also be rest. Some people are not resting or sleeping. Why? Because you don't have the time. You have consumed yourself probably with the socials and all that, and movies and all that. A normal human being should sleep at least 7 hours a day, which will help them to be healthy. But if you are sleeping under 4 hours, that's crazy. You need help. And you need to see probably a sleep therapist to help you recover back your normal sleeping pattern. These things are not, we are sharing here. It's very vital. We take them lightly, but when you go to the hospital and you're told you will pay this amount of money so that you can just sleep, it becomes a different thing. So it will be easy for us to begin that culture. And some of the way we can do it is have a time on your phone. At a particular time, it goes off and sleep. What I do is, for me, I put my phone in my living room when my sleeping time has come at 10, 11 p.m. I put it there, and I have my alarm clock in my room. So my alarm clock will wake me up. I have a routine. I wake up, read a chapter, read a book in the Bible, and then pray, and then go for my morning run, come back, refresh, and probably respond to emails and take my phone, go through messages. And so that is very, very, when you have that culture, it is very helpful for you in that particular space. So I think that is some of the ways that in this particular time and season, we can be able to care for ourselves. But also having community is also key. If we may not have the availability of seeing professionals, community is very key. And our communities have to represent the 3 principles I shared. They have to be available in their time, available in their intellect, available emotionally to listen to you, available spiritually to be able to hear you out and to respond to you, available resource-wise in terms of finances and networks, and also reliable. You can be available but not reliable, but you have also to be reliable financially, reliable time-wise, reliable socially, emotionally and all that. So you don't share, I saw tear gas ikipigwa ikapiga msana kuambia tu si ulijionea Buddha. You need to help people learn how to unpack and all that. And the good thing is we can learn all these things by watching different content online, which help us to learn how to help and engage other people to unpack emotionally and to be there for them. And then also vulnerable. They have to be vulnerable. You can't have a community and you're not vulnerable to each other. How do you genuinely feel, especially in Christian circles? People are not, you want a good side of the scripture to be seen through you. You are a human being. You are feeling all these things. Be vulnerable. It is okay. I stepped into a space on Twitter and the words people were expressing, people were authentic. People were authentic. People were using cussing words, but that is authenticity for them. So if a believer, you have to be authentic in your vulnerability. You have to be authentic. And God has a whole book written for us in the book in the scripture, Lamentations. It is an authentic lamentation. And people are expressing their authentic self. And so I think it is also good for people to be vulnerable. The story I always use as I finish this is the story of Ananias and Sapphira. And we find that these guys went out, sold their property, and came with the proceeds. And when they came with the proceeds, they told Peter. Peter asked them, is this everything? That was a chance being given to them to be vulnerable. But they only confessed the good part and they left the bad part. They were only vulnerable to the good part and left the bad part of keeping the money. And that was where the problem was. And I find that a big problem with us. We confess the good thing and we leave the bad thing. And God is looking at us and looking at us. Do you really need healing? Because if probably they would have confessed everything, probably the mercy of God would have been shown.
Yeah.
And so even for us, we have to confess everything and not parts and parts of stories and then leave other things to ourselves and say, no, you compartmentalize vulnerability, you are not vulnerable. You just need to work on yourself.
Yeah. Wow. What a way to land this conversation. Thank you so much, Nelson. Gosh, I don't know about you guys, but I have been so much enriched by today's conversation. Just knowing how to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I think I love the part where he talked about, just taking care of yourself, physically, drinking water, exercising, eating well, a balanced diet, and resting. So just make sure that you incorporate that, particularly in this season, but also remember collectively, we are journeying through a lot that has been happening. I'm sure there are friends that or maybe a business that that went down either, through the looting that happened or the ones, the buildings that got burnt down or, just so many things that have been happening. So I think it's good for us to encourage each other, to journey with each other, to allow and give space for somebody who may be going through different emotions, to allow them to unpack. But beyond that, seeking professional help, particularly in this season, as Nelson shared, you can get free counseling services in this season for free, and we'll be able to share the contacts, where you can get to seek help and seek professional counseling. But thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. I really do hope that you've been challenged by today's conversation and that you'll be able to care for yourself during the season. We continue to pray for our nation. We continue to pray that we'll be entering a season, where God will establish us, where there'll be stability, where we'll see a lot of change from the demonstrations that happen, that it's not just about the finance bill, but our prayer is that we'll see a lot of change in the different systems and the different places where we felt things are not working out well. But that's it. Remember to share this episode with a friend so that they too can get to be uplifted, to know how to get out of this season of, just great sadness and anger and, all different kinds of emotions. Do remember to share this episode and like it and subscribe if you haven't. But thank you so much. We are looking forward to uploading and sharing the live experience content with you guys. So do stay tuned. We'll be having that coming up after this conversation and this episode. But that's it for today. God bless.